Hello, I'm Diane Kenwood, and I've been a fan of magazines, well, just pretty much for as long as I can remember. It started with Bunty and Judy that I used to go and get from the little local shop down the road from my house when I was growing up, and has progressed all the way through to all the adult magazines that I love. Of course, Woman's Weekly, which I just happened to edit for quite a long time, but other wonderful magazines like Good Housekeeping and Woman and Home, and there are just so many of them, and there's just something very particular about the physical interaction with a magazine and the paper and the pictures and the joy of the discovery as you turn all the pages. So magazines have always been a passion of mine. I've been incredibly lucky to work in the magazine industry, both as a journalist and an editor for a really long time. So I know that one of these videos has already talked about the Sunday Times magazine, but the magazine that I have found to be the one that gives me the most consistent joy, the one that I actively look forward to reading every single week when it arrives, is this one. And it's actually the Saturday Times magazine. I just love this. It's on so many levels. So the reasons I love it are the enormous variety of features in it. There's no predicting what you'll read in the long read features. Absolutely anything from sort of profiles of fascinating individuals and celebrities to thought pieces, lifestyle pieces. I never ever fail to find something that I really love in every issue of the magazine. Then there are all the regular elements that are part of the reason I come back to it over and over and over. They're brilliant columnists, the just incomparable Captain Moran, who is simply one of the best writers of her generation. I've met her a few times. I've given her a couple of awards, and she certainly deserves them. She writes with just power and beauty and insight and humour, and just love her. And another of my regular favourites, the absolutely marvellous Melanie Reid, who has written for the last 10 years actually about her experiences of having sustained a severe spinal injury and having become tetraplegic as a result. And she writes with such fabulous honesty and power, and I would say lack of self-pity, but actually sometimes she does feel self-pity, and she's completely open and honest about it. It's probably the most insightful insight into what it's like to be paralysed. And this is a woman who led an incredibly physically active life before she had her accident horse riding. There are other regular columnists, the hilarious Robert Crafton, who's just Mr. Grump, and the equally fabulous Charles Goran, who is just almost never fails to make me laugh out loud, and currently is writing a lockdown column with his wife, Esther, and they're just marvellous, totally hilarious. So it's a fantastic mix of regular content. They have top-notch beauty and fashion writers. Leslie Thomas is their beauty writer, their beauty expert, and now I've obviously totally forgotten. Oh yes, Anna Murphy is their fashion editor, and they have regular columns in each issue. And then there's always a really interesting What I've Learnt page, which is a short bite-sized interview with somebody of interest. So yeah, hats off to the Saturday Times. It's a real treat of a magazine, and like I say, something I look forward to fishing out of my Saturday Times newspaper every single week.